Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut ReFLEXions. We're here every Monday at 4:30 PM to look back on recent events in the world of boxing. And as I said in ReFLEXions last week, for the first time in a long time, there were two UK events over the same weekend, which shows that the sport is finally coming back to some level of normality after the COVID-19 pandemic and ensuing lockdown. Still no fans allowed, of course, behind closed doors, or at least in one case, outdoors. And they were both good. I enjoyed both shows, particularly the second one, but we'll talk about that. First off was Frank Warren's show, latest show at BT Studios, headlined by Dec Spelman challenging for the Commonwealth Light Heavyweight title against Lyndon Arthur. Arthur, pretty comfortable actually. I thought it'd be a closer fight than it was. Dictated really well behind a really fast, long jab. Didn't get involved unnecessarily and took a clear decision over Spelman. Star of the undercard though was Kevin Ajarko, multi-titled Irish amateur and now a pro, unbeaten, going places. Went up against Ted Smith, short notice opponent, coming up from welterweight. Showed real tenacity, dogged determination, hung in there longer than most people would have expected given some of the shots that Ajarko has landed. And indeed, Smith landed some of his own too. It wasn't a one-sided fight necessarily, but there were real flashes of world-class skill in there from Ajarko at times. The way he moved around the target, the way he picked some of his shots, the shot selection particularly was impressive. And Black Thunder, as he is known, looks to be going places. And also routine wins for the three Everton Red Triangle pros, all unbeaten, on the undercard. And then we move on to Fight Camp. Now, two of the fights out of five were particularly good. The other three weren't any worse than average. So match quality was higher. But I think the real masterstroke, if that's what you want to call it, from Eddie Hearn, was making the whole concept and the venue an attraction in itself. I think that's something that not only has Frank Warren not done with BT Studios necessarily, I don't think Top Rank have done it in the US with their shows either, in the bubble. I think he's taken something that really was convenient, you know, staging shows on a massive plot of land that his family already owned, and that's quite picturesque. So, you know, quite a logical thing to do when you think about it, although I didn't predict it. I think it was him that predicted it, him that kind of conceived it. But he's taken that and he's made a positive of it and sold it off the back of it. Newspapers covering it, TV. I think he was on Good Morning Britain reflecting on it this morning. Reflecting, stealing my gig. And just made it a big thing. You know, fights in Eddie Hearn's back garden. It seems quaint. It seems creative and innovative. And I give him credit for that because it's become almost as big as the fights. And I think that will see him and Matchroom well over the next couple of weeks. Because while the first show has some really good fights on it, and the fourth show is of course the pay-per-view headlined by Dillian Whyte against Alexander Povetkin, the two in the middle, while good for the purists and the boxing hardcore fans, some good fights on there, they don't have quite the same names as the two that bookend the series. So I think it's going to be carried through by that Fight Camp concept, the venue, and, you know, fighters fighting in the back garden of Matchroom HQ. It's all pretty cool. And in the ring it pretty much delivered as well. Dalton Smith looked every inch the can't-miss prospect against Nathan Bennett, and what was a step up for Smith, although you wouldn't necessarily have known it. Bennett was really good, determined, capable, good fighter, but Smith was just on another plane, I think it's fair to say. And when he dispatched Bennett with one of the best shots I've seen this year, he was quick to check if he was all right. He looked very scared for a while, but Bennett recovered fine, and Smith was very concerned, which says a lot about him as a person. Jordan Gill fought a very disciplined performance to outpoint Reece Bellotti in what could have been a banana skin, and was avoided by Gill sticking rigidly to a game plan that was very effective, constantly offsetting Bellotti's rhythm. Simon Vallily may have come to the end of the road, former star amateur with GB, looked largely disinterested in what he'd said beforehand was a make or break fight for the English heavyweight title against Fabio Wardley. Wardley got rid of him in 3 rounds, did what he had to do, looked smooth, moved well. Again, he's on the way up. We also saw, I want to get to the main event obviously in a minute, But we also saw James Tennyson win the vacant British lightweight title with a 6-round stoppage over Gavin Gwynn. It looked like it was going to become a real, watchable war of attrition. It was for a couple of rounds, but then Tennyson found the burst to end matters in round 6. But before that, it looked like it could go long, and that Gwynn was really standing up to some big shots and working his way back into the fight. So it was delicately poised, but Tennyson did what champions are supposed to do and distinguished himself from the opposition at the right time. And you could tell with his celebrations afterwards just how much the victory meant to him. So well done to James, and he's now looking at a possible European title fight. I think that's just recently been made vacant. There'll be 2 guys fighting for it, and he'll look to fight the victor in that one and move up towards potentially another world title shot, this time at 135 pounds. Main event was a cracker, one of the better fights of 2020. I know there hasn't been as many as there is on a standard year. And the 12th and final round, when the fight hung in the balance as far as both fighters knew, was probably the best round I've seen in a British ring this year. Ted Cheeseman pipped Sam Eggington in a fight that toed and froed, or ebbed and flowed. I'm not sure what figurative language I need to use at this point, but really, really watchable, engrossing fight. Not harmed at all, I didn't think, by the lack of fans or lack of atmosphere. I had it a draw at the end. I think I had it, 6 rounds apiece. But the men who mattered, the judges, had it to Cheeseman unanimously. 3-point margins for 2 of them and 1 point for the third judge. I thought early on Cheeseman was getting the better of things. I thought he mixed up his boxing and moving with his aggression quite nicely. But then he seemed to tire in the second half of the contest, as he had against Scott Fitzgerald. And as he started to fade a little bit, Eggington really brought it on and seemed to pick up a lot of rounds in that period in the middle. But then towards the end, I think Cheeseman got his second wind, and that saw him over the finish line with the judges on their scorecards. He'll now have a well-deserved break and look to see what he wants to do next. Still very young, of course, and has lost previously for the European title, but could come again. There's talk already of a fight between him and Anthony Fowler, if Fowler gets past Adam Harper in his own fight camp test. Eggington felt he was unlucky, and a lot of people that commented on social media felt the same. But again, he can come again. He's lost his IBF, high IBF ranking to Cheeseman, but he'll always be in demand because he's summarily in, great fights to watch. And again, he's still very young as well. You'd maybe like to see him get a couple of easy nights before he comes back in with another tough test. I really enjoyed both shows. What I really want to know is what you guys thought. How did you have Eggington Cheeseman? Who did you think should have won? What did you think of the 2 shows? What do you think of the whole fight camp concept? Stroke of genius? Bit corny? What's your view? It'd be great to hear what you think, especially people in the US as well. It'd be nice to know what you think, if there's been any buzz at all really about the fight camp idea in the US. Not so much just watching the shows, but are people talking about it? I have no idea, so it'd be good to know. I'll see you on Thursday for FlexPectations, 4:30 PM, and the next Reflections next week, Monday, at the same time. As always, been a pleasure, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.